Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Dr. Kiki's Science Hour is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Dr. Kiki's Science Hour, and I'm Jeri Ellsworth, sitting in for Dr. Kiki today. This is episode 86. It's March 10th, 2011. From Supermodel to Bioengineer. This is Dr. Kiki's Science Hour, and I'm Jeri Ellsworth, sitting in for Dr. Kiki while she's on maternity leave. If you haven't heard already, Dr. Kiki and her brand new beautiful baby boy are doing well and healthy, so we're very happy for her. My guest today is Joanne Manaster. Did I get that right, Joanne?
Yes, you did.
Yay!
Yes,
The lovely and talented Joanne Manaster. You may also know her as the Science Goddess on different blogs around the internet. She's a biology and a bioengineering lecturer at the University of Illinois. She had a passion for science since she was very young, although she had a very interesting twist in her life when, at the age of 14, she was discovered as a fashion model. She toured around the world and modeled for a few years and then went on to college. Her favorite science topics are histology, the study of tissue under a microscope, and manipulation of mammalian tissue cells in a culture dish so they can help discover new drugs and new ways to help the body regenerate. Besides her work at the university, Joanne volunteers at many science outreach events such as Game Camp, First Robotics, Science Olympiad, Science Online, Kids Read Science. She also produces an educational video series and a blog on her website, joannelovescience.com, that are geared for both younger and older audience. You may not know, but she's also most wanted in over 15 states, including Guam, for her inhumane torture of gummy bears. All right.
I knew they were going to come back at me there and get me on that one.
She tortures gummy bears. Joanne, it's great to have you on.
Thank you
Hopefully
for
I didn't botch up
asking me on.
bio too much. So today we talked about discussing science education in the United States, but really I think it would be great to learn more about you and maybe see if we can just tie it all together and see how how your upbringing fits with your take on teaching science. So you were very, very nerdy, you said, from a young age. Tell me about that. I mean, how did you know?
Well, I definitely was one of those kids that read all the time, and that's because my mom read all the time, and that's what was out there. And when our family moved to Guam, all year long, you have this beautiful weather with which to explore in, and my parents were just pretty laissez-faire, whatever you want to do. So I'd go explore the boonies for hours on end. They also had a great encyclopedia set, and I read that, but not the whole thing. So I don't want to be branded as the girl who read the encyclopedia. But, and now I wonder if anybody could say, yeah, I've read all of Wikipedia. Whereas there used to be kids that could say, I could read the whole encyclopedia set. But anyway, so I just spent a lot of time exploring nature and just the fascination, especially with medicine. So my original goal was to go into medicine. I didn't know.
And at what age was this that you knew?
Well, by 5th grade, I knew I wanted to go into science or to medicine. But before that, it was astronomy. And I think a lot of kids like astronomy, don't they? Because it's just you walk outside and there it is. And it's amazing and beautiful. But yeah, by 5th grade, I wanted to go into science. So that was a singular goal all the way through about junior year of college. And so I just kept studying. I was very shy, very quiet, kept to myself. And as far as the modeling goes, I'm just sitting in a lunchroom, minding my own business, maybe talking to friends, maybe reading a book. I don't even remember because the shock of someone coming up and saying, you can model, was enough to have me forget.
Or were they just like trolling around the lunchroom looking for models at your school? Or
I guess so. I guess they just pop in on occasion. It was an all-girls Catholic school. So, I guess all you're going to see are girls. So they popped in.
And this was still Guam?
Yes, it was. So, so I was just this tall, skinny, nerdy girl. I had really big glasses and stringy hair and bad posture. And it solved that. That was sort of cool. And despite my disbelief, I was raised by very practical parents. And in my mind, I heard, dollars for college. Yeah, we'll do this. So I was really glad to do it for that aspect, but it was not very intellectually challenging. And
yeah, I was going to ask, what were the other kids like? I'm assuming that you were there with the other younger models.
Yeah, so I do have some funny stories, and my favorite one was in Tokyo. And Tokyo, especially in the summer, attracts models from all around the world. So you strike up a conversation by saying, where are you normally modeling, or where are you from? And I said something like, oh, well, I'm just here. I'm on my way to college so then I can become a doctor. And one gal sitting at the table just goes, wow, you must be smart. And I was like, oh, no.
So did your grades slide or anything when you were doing all this modeling and jet setting around the world?
There's lots of time to read, so they didn't. They didn't. I was able to keep up. So I was glad. I guess I couldn't have it any other way. That I want to keep up with my work. So it's funny because then I went to college, kept up with the modeling just a little bit, but then decided, nope, I'm going to be serious about science. I don't want people to know I modeled.
How old were you when you quit modeling and went off to college full time?
So 18. So I modeled 4 years, 14 to 18. And I could have kept going. And there's a part of me that wished I had taken another year and continued, but it was fine, So then I got to college and just began studying biology. By about junior year, said, oh, wow, I don't think I want to be a doctor. I got to work in a lab, and that changed everything. And then there was a professor who said, would you like to teach for me? And that really changed a lot of things. I discovered I was actually pretty good at teaching. So,
like how? How did you know this? Just because you enjoyed it, or how do you know you're a good teacher?
Oh, that's a very good segue question, isn't that? I was, oddly enough, when I was modeling, I did have a chance to teach at a modeling and finishing school. And I did that and enjoyed that. So when you feel that little buzz, like, I think I'm doing the right thing, I think that's
Is it like adrenaline?
Indicator. Yeah. And when kids respond to you, they've got it. They understood what you said. They'll give you gifts or something like that, which is nice. I suppose they could do that if you're mean. We had to do that with our algebra teacher in middle school. But to make sure she was in a good mood, she would have like 10 apples on her desk.
Oh my goodness.
We'd all bring her apples. But anyway, when it came to the college teaching, it was that buzz, and it was like, wow, this is really what I want to do. I was really good at doing things in the lab, but also being able to explain to other people and why we're doing these things. And so actually that's why I pursued a PhD, was simply because I wanted to teach this level of students. I wanted to teach college students because I got a kick out of the higher level science.
Did you ever have any doubt along the way? Any kind of like rocky roads during this period?
As far as whether I would teach or not, no.
No.
Once I started teaching, I just knew I would always want to teach. The only doubts I ever had was, where will I get to teach? Will there be a position that I really like? And I knew I wanted to teach higher level science. I like basic biology, but I really wanted to teach the higher level where the innovation was. So I could always be going, oh, look at this latest thing going on. And I like that. But then as my career progressed, and I was doing that, I also found a lot of satisfaction by reaching out to younger people, as of course I started to have my own children. And so I have 4, a boy who's 19, girl who's 17, almost, a girl who's 15, and a boy who's 11. So as they were growing, I started to understand more, how do you reach children at different ages? How do they think about the world? And I feel like I started to really incorporate that into the way I would describe science. And I'd become more comfortable talking about science with different age groups, not just college students.
Did all your kids turn into scientists?
Well, of course, that remains to be seen. But my oldest he is in atmospheric sciences, and he works for the USGS as an intern. So he's a geological services there. And my second daughter says for now, she wants to be a chemist or a chemistry teacher. And that actually was provided because she lost all respect for her chemistry teacher in high school, because the chemistry teacher had said, bragged about failing math, and she didn't enjoy her teacher very much. And I think there was just something in her that said, I could do this better. But like I said, she's still got a ways to go. So I don't know for sure. Although today, something was funny. I happened to pick up all the kids, bring them home, even the college-aged one. And my daughter she dumps all her books and she goes, I hate circuits.
Oh, what? No.
Yes, I know. So she's learning circuits and physics. And it turns
Being
out,
an electrical engineer, that just rubs my hair the wrong way. What?
Well, and then the oldest, he's in physics and electricity and magnetism, I guess is the theme. And he says, oh, you don't know what I have to deal with circuits. And I just said, I really got to get a plane ticket and fly Jeri Ellsworth out here. We'll get you straightened out.
That's right. I'll straighten them right out. We'll.
Although I think I will go find some of your videos and see what,
you might watch out for the videos where I'm burning things and blowing things up.
I like that.
I don't know.
I like that.
So do you think getting kids interested in science, do you think it's important that the parents have an active role? Or do you think it's possible that kids can do it on their own?
Well, I would say I did mine all on my own, but I don't think I was very typical. I never had, so when I decided I was going to be a doctor, there was nothing else I thought about being. So I think, a lot of kids go through times where they're not sure what they're going to do with their lives, but I always knew it was going to be something in science, and that never, ever changed, even if, exactly what I was going to do changed. But definitely, I think definitely parents have an important role, because as you go through school, your teachers change, and some are interested in science and some are not. And so somebody has to have that curiosity and interest, and even like my parents, this sort of go ahead and explore and do whatever it is you want. Or, my parents, they would take me to museums, but they never really said, here, why don't you do this, or guide me in projects. They just sort of let me explore. Or they never overtly said, we'll provide you whatever you need to explore. You were just left on your own to figure it out. But
do you have any advice for parents that maybe don't know the topic of, the subject that their kids want to explore and learn? And
well, my advice is just, first of all, that it's wonderful the way things are set up. You can go to the library and you can get DVDs produced by National Geographic and Nova, and you can, get to things online. And you can definitely get to museums. Museums are always a wonderful way to help kids explore whatever it is they want to explore. And of course, I'm standing here as a representative of science, but I'm like, if any of my kids came up and said, well, I want to know about Jane Austen, I'd be like, sure, let's go see what we can find online. Let's go find books. Let's go find, some documentary about her. Let's get you what you need to be excited. And I think you can take whatever it is your child is interested in and use that as the springboard to help them learn other things. I actually homeschooled all my kids up till about second or third grade.
Wow, you did this while also teaching?
Yes.
Wow.
So I did.
How did you manage that? I mean, that's an interesting story in itself.
Flexible schedule. This just came about because I didn't even know about homeschooling, and someone was showing off their new house, and they said, and this is the room I school my children in. And they said, you can do that? And so each state is different as far as what you can do for homeschooling, what qualifications the parents need, if any, so in Illinois, you must teach in English, and you must follow Illinois state guidelines. So hopefully you're meeting all the guidelines that the state has set out. So in the early years, it's pretty easy because you got to hit certain, the reading at this level. But the students don't have to take any tests. But what happened with homeschooling was it gave me the opportunity, because I'm only dealing with a few kids at a time, is to say, I know that this one loves geography. And so why don't we learn to read, practice reading things on the topic he really, really likes, which is geography. So, whatever topic it was, we would explore math and reading and, all the basics, and writing. So when he had to practice handwriting, it would be on the topic of geography, whether it's copying sentences or listening to me. So everything revolved around one topic.
Did you find that your kids were maybe spending less time than an average public school kid would spend? I mean, for me, it felt like going to school was kind of like a prison. I had to go there very early in the morning and stay into the afternoon, and then maybe do some kind of after school event until my father got home, just to keep me busy all the time. How much time did you devote, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, the great thing is, is able to split it with their dad. And so he would work with them while I would go to go teach, and then I would come home and take care. So we switched off that way, and that worked out really, really well, especially because I would take certain topics and he would take certain topics. So it was a divide and conquer. And yeah, I think it was good. The kids got to know both of us really, really well. But they do, I would say, on average, spend less time. They're on task. They get things done. And, some days you can intuitively tell maybe they don't feel well. You save it till the next day. There's a lot of flexibility. Whereas if you're in school, the kids just sort of sometimes have to endure. Of course, if you have a wonderful teacher, of course, that just changes everything. But still, one teacher with 20 to 30 kids still leaves less time for a one-on-one interaction. However, of course, now my kids are in public school, the ones in college. But, I did eventually see, I couldn't do it all. I wasn't wanting to do it all. I think that's the main thing. And then just say, I need to trust other people can help, and I'll keep an eye on my kids. If they're missing something, I'll pop right in to help them out. And now it's sort of great because they got to spend a lot of time together. I think, I'm pretty close to my kids. They're close to each other. So they had this opportunity to know each other better. And I love to listen to, so especially the one who's in high school in physics will always call on her brother, because he's actually going to end up with a physics minor by the time he's done with everything. And she's like, can you help me? So I don't even have to do that. It's great.
So what are the traits of, say, a good elementary through high school teacher? Do you have any opinion on that?
Yeah, I think I do. First of all, I would say elementary school is, of course, when they're very young, and the kids are so enthusiastic, right, about everything. They're curious. If someone hasn't squashed the curiosity out of them, they ask a lot of questions. And this is the perfect time for them to be introduced to science, to explore new things and to have the teacher really help them along. The issue I see a lot of times is that elementary school teachers often aren't science trained. They tend to be more humanities based. They might come from a humanities background, so reading more literature or history. And so very few feel confident in science. And firsthand, I saw this even with my children in classrooms, even gifted and talented classrooms. If I would pop by and visit for valid reasons, and the teachers would be doing science themes, and I would come in, you would see them sort of freeze, like, am I doing it wrong? And of course, it's not like I'm a threatening person where I'm going to come and say, how about we do it this way?
So they almost need to let their ego go a little bit and accept that they maybe don't know some of these concepts and learn with the kids.
Exactly. And I actually spent some time speaking with science teachers, high school science teachers, and asking their opinions. And one had a great idea. She said, wouldn't it be wonderful if the elementary school teachers could work with some of the high school teachers, the science high school teachers, to get ideas, to get training, to get support. But sometimes when you're teaching, there's not a lot of time to work together like that. But my personal opinion about science education is, boy, we've got to get them understanding it when they're young. And, that's going to be a big, important thing for a teacher to do. And it's very hard then if the teacher is insecure about their science knowledge. And I don't know about you as far as engineering and people you encounter, but definitely when I see people that, oh, you teach science. I was never good at science.
Yeah, I hear similar things too.
Yeah. So I think that's really prevalent. And so if they're not confident, then it just creates a vicious cycle, or
is there a stigma about science that, there's a reason that people are saying, well, I'm not good at that, or I'm just not, I'm not good at math, or it's almost disparaging when I hear some people talk about it. Is it just kind of cultural?
Well, I don't know if it always used to be that way. That would be an interesting thing to discover. When did people start to say, I'm not good at science and I'm not good at math? Like, was there ever a time in our country where people would say, sure, I know it. I feel confident about it. That's actually a very good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know people do that. But I think what we've set up now is teachers who won't teach science because they don't have confidence. The parents will say, oh, I don't know if I could help because I can't. I wasn't good at science. I wasn't good at math. But the thing is, there's so many resources out there now to get assistance, I think, online or whatever. But I think the parents do need to have more of a enthusiastic, open quality about the lives of their kids to ensure that they're allowed to explore.
So what about high school and beyond? What do you think about science teachers and teaching at that level?
The high school level. Well, I've had a lot of great experiences. My high school, I remember my science teachers, but I don't remember being particularly overexcited about science. Like, I don't think I had such a teacher that I went, oh, wow, because I was already decided I liked science. So it was all fine. I think you could have given me anybody and it would have been okay. And my kids so far in high school have had pretty good teachers, I think, except my daughter's chemistry teacher really annoyed her more than anything. And it looks like you got to stick with her for a semester and then you'll move on to the next teacher. So because my kids have had great teachers, I haven't really had to step in, except when they come home, I'll listen to whatever project they're doing, making a car that moves only exactly so many meters, building a trebuchet to catapult things. So I think it's been a good experience for me. But I do know a lot of kids are forced, and I've seen this in middle school. If the teacher is teaching something outside their area, so even though they're a science teacher, they were trained to teach science, and maybe they're trained to teach biology, maybe they end up teaching earth science, or maybe they end up teaching chemistry, and that happens a lot. Then you can also see a little bit of lack of confidence. And that can be translated into, well, let me just have them read the chapter in the book, do these worksheets, I'll turn on this video, and that's it. And then there's no magic, there's no demonstrating, there's no projects going on because the teacher is a little overwhelmed just trying to deal with a new topic themselves. But then there are also the magical teachers who could do just about anything that you give with them. But I do see what makes my own kids spark up. What makes the college students I work with spark up is when they see they can get their hands into something and they can do something. And suddenly everything makes sense because they've related it to working with it, something to real life. And I think sometimes you have to reach certain parts of the crowd by saying, looking at science, technology, and society, relating that all together. How does this help people? How does this improve the world? Or, you know, for those deeper thinkers, like, well, how is society impacting the world maybe negatively? Let's consider the ethics of these issues. So I think you really just need to find the way the kids are thinking and reach in and you know, work with that.
With our joking around on Twitter last night, it was very, very interesting, all the tweets we started getting back when you tweeted asking people what their best high school teacher, science teacher experience was. And it seemed to me that probably 80% of the best experiences were either some kind of hands-on, exciting experiments, like throwing a big ball of elemental sodium into water and watching it explode, or the teacher took the time to say something or do something very personal with them, like compliment them or tell them a joke.
Yeah, well, and I noticed that too. That was an incredible insight. It doesn't surprise me that a great demonstration, something that explodes, or something that's a lot of guts. There were a lot of eyeballs and guts, I think, brought up, and so or this thing where the teacher says, "Go over there, get these two things, come back and mix it." You know, where the teacher has said, "I trust you to go do that." You know, go do it, come back and mix it, and you know, tell me what happens. I think so. This level of caring, this level of trusting, this level of knowing what kids are capable of, and I think that makes a big difference for kids.
It's almost like treating them as an adult the first time. It seems like I kind of think back to some of my teachers that treated me with respect, unlike some of the other ones that just saw me as the bad kid. I seem to like them. I mean, the ones that treated me like an adult better.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way in any situation, even in a job. So, you know, I was thinking about the other things where people were surprised, where they said, "Oh, their teacher drank something and then they threw up," and I thought, well, you know, that's just one of those surprising, shocking moments that sticks in your head, and you know, that the fact that your teacher would, you know, go ahead and do that just to get their attention. And I think I'm not for sure, but I don't think there's a lot of pedagogical papers written about entertaining the students, you know, that this is a great teaching technique. You do need to capture their attention. They do want to be entertained. They want to see what's fun about science. I think before then they'll say, you know, let me explore that more.
So what do you think about the college setting? I don't have a lot of experience in this area, but I've seen and gone to some lectures where there's hundreds of people out in an auditorium and there'll be one person up there talking about a subject. Very little interaction, just 1 hour of absorb this information with 400 other people.
Right. So I've done my share of lecturing in front of a class. I do try to make it a little light and funny on occasions. And those are great teachers, aren't they? That the ones that I don't know if you've been to some classes where some really great teachers who really engage and aren't afraid to stop the lecture and ask a question and get feedback from students. But yes, there's a lot who say, you know, I got to use that whole hour or I'm not going to get all this information into your heads. So write furiously and take it all down. So this is just the teacher transmitting knowledge to the students, and it's not really engaging. So definitely, I think, well, if you're in your major, if you're in biology or chemistry, you definitely are going to be taking some labs. And that's important. And that's, of course, what I've taught for the past 20 years are labs. So I sort of had my hands in doing good science, getting people excited about science because they were actually doing it. And I was there to help them along. I've done my share of lectures, but I think some people don't absorb lectures very well. They do need to be hands-on. But I think that's even more important, getting people into labs who are not going to major in science. So those types of classes that are physics for poets, right? I forget what else they call them, but they're meant for non-majors. But the worst thing you could do for those people is to just stand up there and lecture. You really need to say science is meaningful in your life. You might have to make a decision based on knowing this science, based on knowing some of these properties of stem cells, based on knowing something about the climate. How do we know the earth is warming or not? So that you make it very relevant to them, but I think also giving them the hands-on would be really wonderful.
Is there anything supplemental a professor can do in the college environment to kind of help these people that maybe don't work in the lecture environment very well?
Well,
I mean, you have office hours, right? And
Yes.
Teaching assistants, but how many feel comfortable to actually go and visit with you during this time?
Well, that's really true. I think a lot of that has to do with the personality and what kind of persona the professor is setting forth. So if you seem like, I'm here for you, I care that you learn the material, come visit me, send me an email. Be sure to come by and talk. I think that has to do more with the personality of the professor. And there have been some incredible stories, not just at the college level, but at the high school level, of transformative teachers. And one aspect of transformative teachers is one that they instill the vision that these kids can do this. So you can do this science, you can do whatever it is you're trying to instill. You can make it to college, for instance. But the other thing is that they make themselves available and they say, I'm here for you. Here's my phone number. Here's my email. I'll be here on Saturdays. Come here. Let's help you meet your goals. So I don't know exactly what else to add to that.
So tell me a bit about the outreach that you're doing. It seems to me that you might be, in the forefront of transforming like science education through all of these mentoring programs you're working with and all your online videos and your website and whatnot.
Oh, so yeah, I do a lot of outreach. Some of the things I'm involved with have been around for a very long time. Science Olympiad starts at the school level, and you have an enthusiastic parent or teacher or a group of them who help students train, be ready for this competition that then runs at the regional, state, and the national level. I have
what do they do?
You can explore any area of science you want. So you do need to spend a day or two a week after school, and then they just explore science more in depth. And then they compete. So they go to the regionals, and there's a little test, usually a practical test. They have to walk around. They might have to mix chemicals and guess what that compound is. I would always be involved with cell biology or genetics or something called bioprocess, like how do scientists take measurements and interpret graphs and things like that. So I always worked at the state level, so I never really got involved in the schools. I sort of felt like, oh, maybe that's not exactly fair for one school to have the state level coordinator helping them. So I did that. I've helped people with science fair projects at a very high level, and that's a lot of fun. And so the other thing I do that brings a lot of excitement to my life is to help with this girls' engineering camp. And we bring in middle school girls. We have multiple topics, and teach.
This is the one called Games?
Games, Girls' Adventures in Math and Engineering Sciences. And I'm in charge of the bioengineering portion. So we do take more higher level middle school girls because we are working with cells. We talk about biomechanics. We talk about, what do engineers do that's different from scientists? They want to
I'd
make
be interested
things.
in hearing this. What is the difference between a scientist and an engineer coming from the engineering background?
Right. Well, and in my time when working with bioengineering and then with this engineering camp, I've really come to appreciate what engineers do versus scientists. So I always feel like scientists are like, oh, look, a butterfly. Let me go explore that and learn that a little more. So, it's more empirical. We're going to go see how something works, understand what's going on. And an engineer will say, we have a problem, and I think I can help solve that problem. So you say, okay, my end product is something that measures the level of oxygen in a blood. So I need to know something about blood. And how can we measure that? So, how do we do this painlessly? How do we do this inexpensively? And so that's another thing about engineering, which I think you probably know, is you can't just dream up anything. You do need to dream up something practical that's cost effective, that won't take forever in R&D, for instance. So, and then I always like to laugh every time I go speak with an engineer. They always draw a graph on the board for some reason.
Time over. Yeah.
Exactly. Anything.
I can relate to that. Okay. So all these things like games and FIRST and Science Olympiad, are they fully funded? Are they getting all the funding they need? Or is there, do you ever feel any frustration that you can't do everything that you want due to money?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've not had to be on the funding side. I've been always recruited to help. Science Olympiad is definitely volunteering. FIRST is volunteering. FIRST, I believe, has a lot of corporate support. Of course, this was first set out by Dean Kamen, the guy who first invented the Segway. So this is his project. So I think they have a lot of corporate support. Science Olympiad, I know, was looking for support. They were hoping to win that challenge. I don't want to advertise the company, but, so they were looking for funds. The Girls Engineering Camp is supported partly by the university and, of course, partly by some of the stipend the girls pay. So I think I see a struggle for people to continually have money. And, then you see things where companies have pulled out of sponsoring science fairs. And you need money to help those things run smoothly, to rent the space, to get information out. And so I know there's money definitely people are wanting to continue these projects.
That seems a little sad that companies can't, cut free with a little bit of money, for these different programs when they're flying around in their corporate jets or getting Super Bowl ads. It seems more important to me that we have a generation of engineers here in the United States than I don't know, a bunch of football players that are only going to be around for a couple years. And I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, that's okay. I agree with that. And it's a good thing I can't remember the company. Although they probably could stand a little like advertising that says, why did you do that? Take your money away. But I tend to agree. There are a lot of people, though, who do a lot of outreach from the bottom of their hearts. They put on science shows and they make sure they volunteer at the children's museums and things like that. My website, I get nothing for that.
Tell us about some of the stuff you're doing on your website. You have some great videos. You have lists of books and blogs, and it's just all out there for free.
Yes, it is all out there for free. And in fact, I pay a little bit of money to keep my website up too, just a tiny bit. So the videos, well, actually I started my blog because I was writing a stem cell and tissue engineering newsletter for my college students and anybody interested. And I sort of got, I hate putting a whole letter together each month. Maybe if I do a blog, I could just, here's a cool story, put it up. And then what happened was my students would say, you should do podcasts, because that was sort of the thing at the time. And I just couldn't imagine myself doing that. But then one day I got a video camera and I thought, what could I talk about? And the funny thing was I thought about Dr. Kiki and I said, I don't want to step on her turf and do what she's doing. So there's surely something where I can differentiate myself, do what I do well. And the funny first thing I did was I thought, I just read a great book. So I told about that book. And that has taken off, these little book reviews. But I don't even say reviews. I want to just say recommendations, because I'm always really positive. And, here, this book exists. You might want to check it out. This is what it's about. Check it out.
You just did a video on the science of kissing, right? Reviewed that book.
Yes, I did.
I thought that was very relevant for Valentine's Day.
Oh, I think she timed, or her publisher timed the release of the book very well. So... And I did. I thought that's smart on my part to also release it around that time. So, and it was a really good book. That nobody has a book on that topic. So Cheryl Kirschenbaum found a great topic to write on. And it's very accessible to the general public. And I think that's one thing that makes a great popular science book. It's not over people's heads. And people are interested in kissing usually. So she found a good topic.
I really like that your videos are relevant for older and younger audiences also. I really like, for instance, your cat one, where you figure out how many cats will fit in your sink. I mean, it appeals to everyone.
Well, yeah, unless I guess someone really, really hates cats. But that was just the funny thing, as I explained in the video. My somebody on Twitter just sent me to this cats in sinks. It's just like you click on these images of cats in sinks on end. And I just went, I wonder how many cats can fit in that big sink in my lab. And it just got me thinking, oh yeah, how would someone solve this? And yeah, how could scientists do this? And then I brought two of my kids in to help me solve it and to handle the cat because I'm allergic. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
My voice sounds deeper because it's the allergies. But yeah, I discovered this big sink that hold 32 cats. If you could stuff them all in really nice and tight. My kids were actually really surprised. And, wow. But I thought this helps us understand. Well, it's impractical to stuff 32 cats in a sink. And sometimes it's impractical to do science, to do the experiment you want to do. You can't get a control climate. You can't, tell the weather to stop one day so you can take some measurements. So there are certain things you need to sort of explore theoretically, and then things you need to experiment, or you start with theory on experiment. So, and I think cats and stuffed animals, just put a little essence of surprise that make people stop and look. And I think that's what I do with the gummy bears, sort of following up. I know you've done some peep destruction.
Yeah, marshmallow peeps.
Marshmallow peep destruction. And the gummy bears just actually became this, what did it become? It started with a student asking me, can we sonicate a gummy bear? Can we apply high frequency sound waves and see what would happen with a gummy bear? And in my lab, I just said, sure, we can clean the ultrasonic probe. And so that was the first video I did along those lines, but then realized, well, we can freeze it. The crystallization one was an accident. So some of these have just come about. It's not that I'm out of ideas. I'm just not always sure how can I test, the tensile strength of a gummy bear? Do I have access to that equipment and things like that? So I'd like to continue that. They are fun.
So where do you see science education going in the next 10 years, and what can people do to help?
This is a really good question, because we do, at least right now, we have a president in the White House who is drawing attention to science in the State of the Union address through his Educate to Innovate initiative. So he's at least trying to put this in people's minds, and he, even saying, I think science fairs are more important than the Super Bowl, for instance. He hosted the White House Science Fair. Yeah, so even if things don't change right away with him in the White House, he's planting a seed. He's standing up there saying, this is important. And back in when India was first liberated from the British, so whenever that was in 1947 or something like that, Prime Minister Nehru came in. And he actually put a little plea in the Constitution that says it shall be the duty of every citizen to develop a scientific temper. And I thought, isn't that interesting? That an entire nation, and now I look at the physics and engineering department. We do have a lot of Indian students here, so that there is a culture of science that does pervade India. I was reading this in a book called Geek Nation, and I thought that's what we need. We need this something to sort of pervade America. That science is important. We don't all have to become scientists, but if we had that scientific temper, that way of just sort of looking at the world, it could be very interesting.
Seems like we've lost something since the space race of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, that was really motivating. That the mindset of America at the time was, well, they're our enemies, so we better do something about that. We don't feel that threat anymore. I think that we better become more scientific to gain a place in the world, because the world just seems so open and available. So there's really not this idea of competition. So I think that's not going to work to motivate people for science. I think they have to grapple with the fact that things they use every day rely on science and engineering. And if there's not people to do this, we're not going to have those things,
So we're coming to the top of the hour, and I can't believe it went by so fast, just like that. So we don't get behind on their schedule here. Is there anything last that you would like to say before we close out?
Oh, I don't know that there's anything to add, except I hope everybody takes a look at your engineering videos. I really enjoy them. And I just think it's great to see someone sitting there saying, oh, you know what, it's like a MacGyver thing. I've got posters and I've got a barrette and, and I've got some old cord and I'm going to demonstrate something really cool for you.
Well, thank you. I really like demystifying things that people think are complicated, science or engineering, electronics. So.
Yeah, I think it's great because you take some time and you say, here's the science behind it. The electrons are moving this way. It's really motivating. I think it's really important. And people look at your setup and think, wow, she really knows what she's talking about. And I just think that's important.
Stop. You're making my head too big.
Well, I enjoy your videos.
Well, thanks for coming on and enduring this. I know I'm not as fluent and smooth as Dr. Kiki, but she'll be back soon. She'll be back soon. I hope she'll consider bringing you on and discussing some more.
Yeah, lots of projects going on, so definitely. And
again, go check out Joanne's website, JoanneLovesScience.com.
Well, thank you. Jeri, thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be on. And I don't think I solved all of U.S. science education problems. But yeah, the best part of all this, I think, was getting people on Twitter very excited about sharing their favorite science moments. I think that's been my favorite part of this whole thing.
That was great. So we should gather those up and put them somewhere. Maybe we can put them in the show notes.
I think that's a good idea.
Someone even recorded a message for us. I don't know if you saw that, but he described his favorite moment with his teacher. It was really touching.
Well, and people were saying, can I email in my story? And I thought, wow, with the number of tweets, I don't want to see how many emails we get. Oh, I'd be happy, though, because people are excited about science, at least for the moment.
Yes. Well, thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.